What the is we doing?
Welcome back. This is Shots of Info, talking about shots. Cheers,
What
mate.
number? What number are we on? Because we didn't even say it for the last one.
26.
Ah, shit! I thought I was gonna get you.
I'm not that drunk. I'm a zip it a little bit. I got my But anyways, this episode, I'm leading it because it's my topic. It's my realm, my ring, fitness. So we're gonna be
Fitness.
oh shit. Oh,
Damn, bro.
finance.
You drunk as hell.
Finance. All right. I'm gonna get my water now. I'm gonna need it. All right, cool.
Okay. What, this is so unprofessional, man. You fucking moving the camera and everything. What the fuck is going on?
Well, I'm in charge of the audio, so that
Damn.
I'm gonna cut that off.
Damn, look at the hair, man. You just went straight up emo on me. Jesus Christ.
I just took a shower, mate.
It's all right. It's all right, man.
Yeah, but anyways, let's get into finance. We're gonna be chatting a little bit about credit, specifically credit cards. We're gonna dive into some of the credit cards that we personally use. Maybe dive into like why we chose these specific credit cards. Did we do some research behind it? Was it best fit for the lifestyle that we have? And why, especially here in the US, actually, I realized that it's more of a United States thing. Credit is so important for whatever you want to do financially. And fun fact, as soon as you're born into the United States, you already have a credit score. Ta-ta-ta-ta. But it's until you're 18, unless you have parents who put you into their credit cards as a what do you call that? Fuck. Um,
Basically, like a secondary person on the card.
yes, as a secondary person in there. Unless they put you there, and allow you to use their credit card, you start building your credit. So just to dive on a little bit of my experience, I got my first credit card at Citibank when I was 18. Literally the day of my birthday. I went to the Citibank near my house and I opened an account and I got my first credit card. Now, just a little for the people that are not from the US, the credit runs from 0 all the way to 150 points. And it kind of like evaluates from like trash to like great and to like excellent. And most of the people are in between like the 700s to the 850, and that's kind of like the norm. That's where people they want you to be. So a credit card helps you build this number, like increase it, decrease it. And when you're young, when you're 18, I remember I at the time I used to work, so I used to get constant income, and people, knows this. You have to declare this. So based on how much you make, they allow you the credit that you can pay it off. So yeah, not a lot of rambling, but for the people that don't know what credit is, what is credit, Randy? In simple word.
Essentially, it's just a score
No, credit.
indicating
Like the
credit.
credit. Yeah, yeah. Like why you have
Okay.
credit.
So again, credit is just the money that banks or institutions that can actually lend you money can give you. Um, Obviously, you were going on about the credit score, and that will kind of dictate how much credit you are allotted, given, again, factors like your income, credit history, um, probably, I forget, there's something else that I'm missing here, but any loans or things that you're paying off, right? So like student loans, car loans, um, if you start getting into housing, right? So paying off a mortgage and things like that. All of that ends up contributing into your credit and your credit score and your credit utilization. And there's a lot that goes into it that I'm not 100% about. Realistically, for me, it's just about getting good credit cards, paying them off, and inevitably getting into, bigger investments that require credit. So generally, when you want to get into like a house, the best way to go about that is to take a loan from the bank and get some sort of backing from them to start that process, right? Because unless you're willing to pay the upfront cost of, anywhere from, depends on where you're buying a house, or an apartment complex or whatever it is. It starts off at like 500,000 all the way to multiple millions, at least in New York. So that really only gets done when you actually have some sort of credit that you can get from the bank, or loan you can get from the bank, which is usually predicated on your credit score and all the previous history that you have. Anyway, that's my rambling. Back to you.
Thank you. Yeah, well, so once again, credit is a huge thing here, especially in the US, because whenever I go to Ecuador, that's not such a thing. And I'm pretty sure in other countries, that's not such a thing. So this is more for my US people who are listening here. Building your credit is important ever since like you literally turn 18. Start building your credit. Now, a couple things accumulate to this. You have to start paying it on time, like don't miss a payment. So just going back to what Randy mentioned about what credit is literally money that you're lending from the bank to buy stuff up front, to pay up front. So paying it on time, the amount of years that you have the credit for also determines how much, like how much money they can give you, because there's increments. Like your bank automatically is gonna keep incrementing your credit. When you're 18, I remember I started with like $2,000, and but I know people who literally started with $100. Once again, at that time I was working, and I have a constant paycheck that I can, tell the bank that I'm actually making money and I can afford this. But with time, it keeps growing. Like every 6 months, they have your information anyways. So pay it on time. The longevity of the credit of your longest credit line is going to determine also, it's going to affect your credit score. The amount that you use. So for example, let's say if you have a credit line of 1,000, the recommended amount that you want to use is a 10 to 15%, no more than that. So 100 to 150, you want to use that, and that's going to maximize and say like, oh shit, he's not dependent on credit so much. So let's actually increment his money, and that actually increments that. So longevity, paying on time, and the percentage that you use. And the most important is how many credit lines you start opening at the time. So if you start opening credit cards every single place, they're not gonna trust you. So they're gonna limit your credit, and your credit score is gonna go down. So that too. Don't open, let's say, I would say like within a year, don't open more than 2 credit cards or credit lines. And credit lines include student loans, it includes buying a car, buying a house. All these are accumulated, and these are tracked by 3 companies all together. Shit, I forgot the names. I got this, so in my head I can remember them, in fact.
Yeah, so there's 3 different bureaus of credit that kind of aggregate to give you, your scores. Again, depending on what specific thing you're doing, the credit bureau or whatever the institution is will be given more like importance, right? So like there's a specific one that's predicated or just more specific towards like, mortgage loans or housing loans, right? So whatever bank you're trying to get that credit from or the loan from will look at your score specifically with this bureau. You want to say something?
Yeah, I got that 3. So it's
Go for it.
X, Experian, and TransUnion. Those are the companies that you can get your credit, and these are for free actually. So if you're curious about what your credit line is, you can use your Social Security and just get that report for you, and they're obligated by law to give it to you. So if you're somebody who's 17 years old, you can actually go and get it. But most banks, they have included this in their apps, so you can get that from there too.
Yep.
Right, boo. So now we dive more into credit cards, because credit itself is a huge topic. Maybe we can start with credit cards today. Credit cards, this is my philosophy. Randy might have a different one. I'm curious about you hearing that as well. On my philosophy, if I might use credit, I'm a heavy credit card user, and you know that.
Yep.
Now, and that's kind of like the expectations. But if you know how to play the game, baby, you're set. But if you know how to play the game, you're fucked. Sorry, you two, for this, but
No, that's fine. I think it's like the first minute. If you curse, they demonetize. But I mean, we don't really get paid for this. Or you get flagged. But again, we're probably already like 20 minutes in, so we're good. Go for it.
So the thing is that credit cards, they're different credit cards. And if you know how to play the game, you can literally earn money from it. So the way that I do, so I used my first credit card, it was a point base. So there's 3 different types of credit cards that you can get: point base, cashback, and miles. Point, you get points. You can translate this into cash, translate this into gift cards, etc. and etc. If you're just starting, I wouldn't recommend this. It's not solid idea. Cashback. I started with point base just from my experience, and it was okay, but it was confusing to kind of like earn the money back behind this. Cashback is very straightforward, very solid. So if you're a beginner, that I recommend that. I highly recommend getting a cashback, especially if it's like 2% cash or 3%. Do your research, because a lot of cards have this crazy, like, let's say you're a heavy grocery user, you can earn up to like 5% cashback on every grocery store, so pharmacy that you use, and that. And a lot of people play the game. For example, well, we're gonna dive into that a little bit later. And then miles. If you're somebody like me who loves to travel, loves all this shit, get miles. Miles is the OG, to be honest, for somebody who travels a lot. But yeah, a little bit about more. So as you become an adult, you got responsibilities. So nowadays, actually, there is a credit card that you can pay rent with. And that's another thing why credit card is important, is because here in the United States, if you want to get an apartment, if you want to get somewhere to, a place to live, you actually need to report your credit, which is crazy. When you're getting a job, like on the books, they actually run the background check on your fucking credit.
How else you get the job, Mike?
The facts. So credit is important, and
getting jobs off the books. What are we doing, bro?
Bro, you never
Keep
know.
it clean, man. Keep it clean.
Anyways, but yeah, so that's how crazy credit has become in this country, and it's so fucked up. Do I agree with it? Fuck no. Do I like it? It's fun. But yeah, it's fun.
It is what it is.
What about you? Okay, so let's see. What's on your wallet? Let's chat about that.
Right. So I can tell you, so beginning with the credit history, right? So I began with getting onto my parents' Capital One venture. So I became a registered user with my father, and that helped me build up my credit until eventually I was able to get my own credit card. And there I just got a standard credit card. It didn't offer any points, rewards, or anything. It was just a regular card that I could use it. And then from there, I started transitioning into stuff like, Amazon Prime card, where you get the 5% cash back, or 5%, 5% cash back off of every purchase you do on Amazon, right? So that's pretty solid, because I usually shop on Amazon. If I want to buy anything, I usually get it from Amazon. So that's a solid purchase, or a solid use of a card there. Then Capital One cashback, Quicksilver. That's pretty standard. Pretty sure everybody would recommend that as one of your first cards if you can. As I switch over to Discover, right? Discover has their own cashback. Discover is all online, right? Like they don't have brick and mortar stores. Like it's literally all online. But you know, it's pretty solid, very reliable, pretty consistent across the board. And usually they have like different perks and reward systems in terms of how they utilize their credit cards, but solid across the board.
Right.
What else? I think that's it.
Yeah, and
I
that's
have like 5 credit cards in total right now, so that's nothing like too crazy. But you know, I have everything set in such a way where like I use it for different things, and I maximize their potential, right? Because every card has a different use, and that's the game that we're talking about here, right? Like you have to maximize the rewards and the point systems and everything that these cards use, so you get something out of it.
yes, that's absolutely correct. That's the game that we're talking about. And you know, part of the game is that 3 major players that kind of controls this whole thing. Now, you can get a credit card from Capital One, Citibank, but in reality, they are their own identities. So let's say you have a checkings account with Citibank. I have a checkings account with Citibank, so Chase. They don't know shit about the credit cards that they, you know, give you. You actually have to call a different number with this specific branch because they're their own thing, kind of like their own identity too. That's one thing worth mentioning. But yeah, the 2 major players on today's worldwide is Visa, MasterCard, and Amex. Oh, well, Discovery. Discovery.
That's what I said. They're up and coming. The big ones.
They're the underdog.
Wait, but like just to clarify here, right? So like there's the banks and then you have the credit card companies themselves, right? That's what we're going into now.
Yeah, no, well, I think we didn't mention that, you know, the banks facilitates the card, but who process the payments, the mediator is, you know, Visa and MasterCard.
MasterCard,
Amex,
MX.
Amex, it's a bank and a mediator. So they're the only thing. And then Discover is not very worldwide, but it's usable. It's upcoming.
Mostly because they're newer, right?
Yeah,
Like
they're
all the other guys have been around for as long as like the institution of credit cards has been a thing. So
correct. Yeah, but I think Visa and MasterCard, they're very recognizable by a lot of people. Amex is targeted or more towards luxury and more rich people. But anyways, cool. So what's on my wallet? I started with a Citibank. I don't remember what it was. Citibank thank you point. Really solid car, to be honest. You know, just you gotta keep track of the points and then you can accumulate this and you can exchange it for gift cards, even cashback, and even, you know, a lot of things. Points. Thank you points. Then I moved to Citibank Double Cash, and that's one card that I still use. It's 2% on everything. Quicksilver, Randy mentioned, is a really good starter card for cashback. I think it's a 1.5 now for every purchase. And my most solid, my to-go card is a Venture X card from Capital One. And I think that's a solid one. And of course, I also have my Apple card from Goldman Sachs. So
you have a Prime card from Amazon?
I don't use Amazon that much. So it's not part of it.
Damn, son.
Yeah, once again, this is coming back to the game that we're playing. It's about what accommodates most to your lifestyle. Where are you, you know, spending most of your money? And for me, it's mainly important keeping myself in the Capital One, Capital One,
Capital One.
Capital One, Capital One circle. That way I can transfer all my points that I get from my Quicksilver into miles, because that allows you that. Chase has something similar with the Sapphire. So if you have a Chase Freedom, unlimited freedom, you can transfer your points or your cashback into miles for the Sapphire reserved. Amex have something similar as well. So if you have your Amex Gold or an Amex Platinum, you can transfer your miles into the Platinum and you get the benefits. So now when you're starting, of course, you start with a credit card, basic credit card that just gives you cash or points or miles back, and they're totally free. There's no annual fee. Some of these have a lot of perks, especially if they're a Visa. Like insurance. You just gotta read a lot of shit, but it has some depending on the card that you use, there are some benefits for every credit card because that's the incentive for them attracting you to use their credit card. Now I can talk more about my specific card, which is the Venture X, over like other credit cards out there, and why it works well for me is because I like to travel. It actually gives you a TSA pre-check membership free, global entry. It gives you access to priority pass lounges. So in the airport, if you want to feel part of the cool kids, you go and wait in the lounges. You don't have to wait in the shitty ass chairs.
The peasant area, huh?
I wouldn't call that, but anyways, a lot of these things, there's perks for every credit card. There is a annual fee, 100% worth it, to be honest, because they gives you back some credit. And don't mind you, Venture X is a new player in the game against the Sapphire and the Amex, because those are the top players right now when it comes to travel. The Venture X is making its mark right now, and it's very attractive for people. The annual fee is not that high. It's like half of the price from a Sapphire and Amex. So yeah, I think my suggestion for a lot of people when it comes to choosing and picking the credit card is just look in a piece of paper right where you're buying things. Just analyze the places that you're going to and buying things and spending most of your money. Is it groceries? Is it gas? Is it like Amazon, like for you? Is it like traveling or whatever it is? Just put it into pocket. And once you know where you're spending most of your money on a day-to-day, just go and find a card that best, assimilates and best get your money back from that money that you're spending. But yeah, I think that's the way that I went for my thing. And there's a lot of credit cards. So there's gonna be
there's a shit ton. What is it, Credit Karma? You can sign up online there for them. It's free. You can get your credit reports and all that. But yeah, like usually they'll start recommending cards to you based off of your like credit score and all that. And like the list of them is insane. Like there's so many cards from so many different banks. So yeah, the possibilities are endless. But at the end of the day, you want to go with whatever is accommodating to your lifestyle, right? So again, for me, I like purchasing stuff on Amazon. Like I used to buy stuff off Amazon. So it'd be a good idea to get the Amazon card because I would maximize my purchases, as opposed to doing the Venture X. Like I can buy stuff off Amazon with the Venture X, but what's the point if I'm not really going to travel, right? So there's a lot of different incentives and reasons to get the credit cards, but you just have to find your reason. And once you do, then you pick your card.
Yeah, and even if you don't want to like maximize, there's little people who believes just out of credit cards and points and miles. They're crazy. They're extremists about that. I'm very solid. I'm calm. So if you don't really care about much of this stuff, I would say just pick based on your lifestyle. That's important because you can maximize a lot of these things and you can pay your credit card statements with cashback. I highly recommend cashback for most of the people, honestly. Just they're solid. As long as you get like 2-5% on whatever purchase, you're solid on that one. It's really nice money back. But building it is very important. Once again, here in the United States, especially, just because every move that you make in here, and if you want it to be legal, very important, you need credit. So So it's very important. They judge you by that number. So, it's commitment.
Right, and like you mentioned, like you already mentioned all the things that you need to build the credit, right? Consistent paying history, always making sure you're making the payments in full, or at the very least paying off a majority of the balance, never leaving a certain amount, like 50% of the balance always. That's not gonna help bring up that number. Credit history, how long you've had the credit line, how many credit lines you have, and then yeah, that's pretty much it. It's just doing it consistently over a long enough period of time. That's what eventually will make you get to those higher numbers. Like you're not really considered to be a good credit card user until you have 8 years of history.
Yes.
So like that's just to give you an example of like how long it takes before like you start having like really good credit and able to actually utilize your credit to do stuff like purchase homes, get good car loans, etc. So you got to be in this for the long run for sure.
Yeah, and actually one thing that you mentioned is that your parents put into the credit in his credit card. My parents actually didn't know a lot of this stuff before me. So a lot of this knowledge that I have and just playing the game, it's been just on my kind of like research and stuff. And my credit line actually starts when I was 18. So you probably have an advantage on me when
Yeah.
that puts you in his credit card. So that's one thing that parents can do now for their kids. If you can add your kid to use as an authorized user, that's what
There you go.
it's coming back. As an authorized user, as soon as you your credit card allows you to, usually it's like 15, 16, you can do it. Or like even earlier nowadays, to be honest. Once again, it gives a huge advantage for that kid. Whenever they got the money and wants to buy a house, they can do it like so easily. But yes. Now, one recommendation too for me is, well, I wouldn't say recommendation. One last thing that I want to mention into this episode is that a credit score is pretty much just the trust the banks have on you to lend you money. So that's the reason why it's important. And now if you go out there and research people, like very successful people, they became, wealthy and successful, not because they actually went and worked for the money. It's because they use their trust with people, bank investors, to actually go and get the money from them. So it's all about building trust. So if you really want to build success, build this trust and give it some thought, give it some care, because it matters a lot if you're trying to build things, especially here in the United States. Now, once again, this is mainly United States than anywhere else. But yeah.
Yeah, just to add the final points here, right? So going back to like, how people generally build their wealth, it's their ability to utilize the money that, that they're being given or allowed to have and utilize and invest it smartly and strategically, right? Generally, like when people make, smart investments, it's usually going to be something like in real estate, right? And then they leverage that investment, get money out of it, and now they have more money to invest in more things, right? But that only began because they had a nice pull from, or a nice source to pull from in terms of getting a loan from the bank. And that only happens because your credit score is good to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
So it always begins with make sure that you're on point with everything so that when inevitably or eventually you have the opportunity to pull the trigger and make an investment like this that requires a good amount of startup capital, you can have it, as opposed to needing to build it on your own by working like 10 to 20 years. You can literally shorten that time frame, get a loan from the bank, invest, maximize that investment, take the money out, pay off the investment or the initial loan, and then take all the money that you just made and do something else with that. And essentially you literally rinse and repeat. And that's how I would wager to say a lot of people make a shit ton of money.
Yeah, and ultimately, I feel like your credit is the foundation that can allow you. It can either allow you to build wealth, or it can literally bring you to ruins, to the point that if you don't have a good credit score, it's gonna be harder than a person with a good credit score to even get a shelter, like like an
Yeah.
apartment, because that's nowadays mandate for most of the places that you go to. But yeah, mate, I will finish there. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I think we hit all the points there in relation to credit cards and everything that we can do on that. Obviously, the topic is pretty like
Big.
yeah, it's extensive. So
Oh yeah,
like we can dive a lot into it, but as a beginning point, this is definitely a good starter.
Yeah.
Just to get some perspective on like what is credit cards, and all that.
Yeah, no, maybe later on in next episodes we can start diving into the different types of credits, like student loans, property,
Car loans, all that.
all that. Maybe we can. That's a different topic for another day, my friend. Salute.
I'm out. I'm
Oh,
out.
come on.
Oh no, there was a little sip. Never mind. All right.
This is a conversation between friends.
None of what is said here should be taken as legal advice.
We are not experts in any way.
Take what resonates and leave the rest.